Part 5. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 41. Boom, boom, a gourd rolled on the ground. The purple humanoid knocked down the countless black shadows that were about to rush out of the morgue. The figure of the black-robed man paused, and the dark vision allowed him to see the countless black shadows behind the purple figure. The moment he saw it clearly, he got goosebumps on his body. What surprised him most was that a huge scar appeared on the chest of the purple humanoid. The naked eye could see that the scars were growing rapidly with the growth of countless granulations. In just a few seconds, the wound had completely disappeared, leaving only a hideous scar with a scab. Hiss. The black-robed man took a breath of cold air, and a trace of solemnity appeared on his face. He knew very well that he had just exerted 70% of his strength, but the death sickle did not cut the opponent open. The mysterious man had a very clear understanding of his own power. His own attacking technique, the death sickle, could not kill the opponent. This was a very terrifying thing, and it would be very bad to stay here. He made a prompt decision and turned around and rushed in the direction of the passage. A cloud of black smoke filled the air under his feet, and his speed increased by 30% instantly. Roar, roar, roar. Ha ha. Strange breathing and roaring sounds sounded behind him. So many strange and terrifying sounds represent a large number of dead things whose origins are unknown. In the passage, there was a dense sound of chasing. Among the dark figures, a purple figure was the most eye-catching. His speed was very fast, almost biting the black-robed man in front of him and chasing. He jumped up like a beast that was attacking. The black-robed man felt the threat from behind, and a trace of anger appeared on his face. He turned around and pinched a handprint with his right hand. A dark knife light burst out from his hand. The death sickle is the most powerful killing technique in the Taoist arts he mastered. With his eyes, he could see that the dark group of figures rushing from behind were all dead people. Other Taoist methods he mastered did not have much effect on them. Only this death sickle could ignore the characteristics of the other party's dead people. Boom. Another muffled sound, the death sickle was smashed on the spot. The purple figure's arms were covered with a layer of dark scales at some point, blocking the death sickle. Its arms grabbed the black-robed man with a bang. The arrival of danger made the black-robed man look solemn. A black cross lit up in his eyes, and a strong strange power permeated from his eyes. This power was so terrifying, containing a death-like, but different death intention. The cross in the black-robed man's eyes gushed out a cross of black light. The black light could not be stopped at all, and instantly hit the purple figure. Roar. A beast, like the wailing before death, and like an angry roar. Its chest was deeply embedded with a black cross, and the strange black power rushed into the body of the purple monster. Its body structure was madly destroyed, but the black runner was not happy. Behind the purple humanoid creature, a group of dark figures were rushing over. Without any hesitation, he made a prompt decision and used another technique. Countless black mists emerged from his body, quickly covering the 3-meter circle passage. In this black mist, there was only infinite coldness, and all senses were submerged. The purple humanoid monster waved his hands frantically and beat his chest. Boom boom boom. Huge muffled sounds continued. A faint black strange power burst out from his body, colliding with the cross wound on his chest. On both sides of him, a big black man pounced into the black mist. But the ability of the black mist to block all senses seemed to be affected. They slowed down their steps, as if looking for the target just now. The mysterious black-robed man who released the black mist had turned around and rushed towards the source of the passage at this time. His body movement was very fast. Every time he landed and stepped on the ground with his toes, he would move 3 meters away as if he had teleported. In just a few seconds, he had rushed to the fork in the road where he came from. The other side of the passage. Lin Yi was checking various documents and collecting various information with others. This mysterious Superman laboratory hides too many secrets. Time buried everything, especially in this special era. Various mysterious phenomena continue to appear. Any changes in this place are possible. Here is a bunch of keys, which looks a bit special. Li Qiuyu's voice was full of doubts, and everyone gathered around and looked at the bunch of keys in her hand. It was a bunch of keys that looked like they were made of special metal, without any trace of rust. There were 9 keys in total, each with a number on it. From 1 to 9. Lin Yi took a look and immediately knew what was going on. This is probably the key to the laboratory passage. According to the drawings, there should be 9 laboratories inside. There are exactly 9 keys here, and each key corresponds to a laboratory. Everyone suddenly realized it, and Li Qiuyu handed the key to Sakuramiya Shirley for safekeeping. Boom! A huge sound suddenly came from the direction of the fork in the road, attracting everyone's attention. Everyone who was still searching carefully in the room stopped what they were doing. Everyone looked towards the entrance of the passage, where a huge sound was coming from. Lin Yi's face condensed and his eyebrows raised. No, there is a problem. Everyone follow me, quickly. Lin Yi is a very cautious person. In such a dangerous place, he will not be careless. His body flashed and rushed out. His speed was amazing, and at this time, a faint golden light flashed under his feet. At this time, he had converted the root of the essence to the Shenxin Qi he had secretly learned. Shenxin Qi instantly increased his speed by 10%. Others saw Lin Yi move and followed him. Although they didn't know what Lin Yi had discovered. In just a few dozen seconds, a group of them had arrived at the original fork in the road. When Sakuramiya Shirley and others came here, they saw Lin Yi confronting a man in black robes. The man in black robes glanced at Sakuramiya Shirley, revealing a deep murderous intent. Although this murderous intent flashed, it was noticed by Sakuramiya Shirley. Thinking about something, Sakuramiya Shirley sneered. At this time, a dry roar sounded from the direction of the middle passage. Hearing this strange sound, everyone's face changed. Especially Lin Yi's party, they knew where this place was. These strange sounds were obviously some kind of terrifying thing. They couldn't help but think of the information they saw in another passage. Suddenly, everyone's face became very ugly. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 42. Everyone's heart trembled instinctively. Li Qiuyu exclaimed, "No, look at it." Li Qiuyu's face was filled with surprise, disbelief, and fear. Everyone looked at the direction of the passage when they first came to this fork in the road. The way they came in is gone. There was just a huge wall. There is no trace of a passage at all. It seems that the way in is their delusion. Everyone was shivering, and a stream of cold air rushed from the soles of their feet to their foreheads. They were trapped here, and it seemed that some kind of being was watching him, and when they entered, the exit disappeared. Lin Yi made a quick decision, go to the passage on the left, everyone follow me. There is a laboratory there, and the door to the laboratory is specially made. It's enough to protect us from most dangers. As soon as he finished speaking, he took the lead and rushed out. Shirley Yinzhong, Butler Xiaoqiu, Li Qiuyu, and Qin Lei also followed. The mysterious man in black robe followed them silently. He glanced vaguely ahead. There was a tacit understanding between the two parties that they neither spoke nor exchanged words. They were gone for less than a second. A group of corpses have already rushed out. The leader was a humanoid monster whose whole body was covered in bruises. At this time, its chest was covered with various scars. But these scars have healed, leaving only some traces. Surrounded by horrible corpses with ferocious faces, their empty mouths opened, revealing fangs like wild beasts. His nose kept swaying in the air, as if he was smelling something. The next moment, they chased towards the passage on the left. That was the direction Lin Yi and others left. In this Superman laboratory, the 3 passages are not long. Each one is only 100 meters long. On both sides of the passage, rooms were built one after another. At this time, they were running in the 3rd passage and came to an empty hall. The hall is circular in shape. A total of 9 doors appear on the wall of the hall, which is exactly a circle. Lin Yi's eyes flashed and he walked directly towards the first door. Turning to look at Sakuramiya Yuri, "Give me the key." Sakuramiya surely waved her right hand, and the key fell into his hand. Lin Yi directly found the key to laboratory number 1 and inserted it into the keyhole of door number 1. Click click click. There were a few dull sounds and the key was turning continuously. At this time, in the passage where they came from, the strange roar was getting closer and closer. A tense atmosphere quickly enveloped the entire hall. The key is turned halfway. Suddenly, he couldn't turn anymore. It seemed like something had jammed the lock, making it impossible to open the door to laboratory number 1. The shriveled roar in the passage was getting closer and closer. Everyone's faces became more serious. The cold voice of the mysterious man in black robes sounded, "If you can't open it, let me do it. Don't waste your time there. Behind are a group of mutated corpses." Lin Yi frowned. There was a slight pressure coming from the passage, making him feel a hint of danger. No more hesitation. He tore the keychain directly. Then he picked out 6 of the remaining 8 keys and threw one to each person. 1 door for each person, move quickly. At this time, he holds the keys to door 4 and door 5. In a flash, he was already rushing towards door 4. Lin Yi didn't know the origin of the man in black robe. But now is not the time to argue about this matter. Moreover, when the man in black robe appeared at the fork in the road, he was obviously forced out by the monsters in the middle passage. This man has a certain understanding of those monsters, and he needs to take advantage of them. Soon, everyone inserted the key into the keyhole, and the sound of turning continued. Lin Yi's expression suddenly changed slightly. Gate number 4 also couldn't be opened and got stuck halfway through turning. Without any hesitation, he gave up gate 4 and came to gate 5. At this time, the keys of several other people were also stuck. Roar. Ha. Hiss. Weird gasping and hissing sounds continued to sound. A purple figure has stepped into the empty hall entrance. The cold voice of the man in black robes sounded in everyone's ears. "Be careful, the most powerful monster is coming." The purple humanoid monster stepped into the empty hall. The reminder from the man in black robe made everyone nervous. Qin Lei shouted, "Is your door open? I'm stuck here." His roar instantly awakened the purple monster's idea. Roar. A strange roar. The purple figure rushed towards Qin Lei like crazy. Bang bang bang. A powerful force stamped on the ground. Everyone felt a slight vibration under their feet. Qin Lei felt danger approaching. Look back. The searchlight overhead illuminated a purple figure. The figure was rushing towards him suddenly. The speed is astonishingly fast, and its 2 arms are thick and covered with a layer of black scales. Without even having time to think, Qin Lei reacted instinctively. He turned around and put his shield in front of himself. Boom! A harsh collision sounded. Qin Lei's 2-meter-tall figure flew up under this huge force. He flew 3 meters and fell heavily to the ground. At this time, he had already thrust his shield into the ground in midair. Crack, crack. The friction between the shield and the ground slowed down the impact in midair. His legs landed heavily on the ground. He slid backwards under the huge inertia. At this time, 2 hands were placed on his back, and Li Kaiyu and housekeeper Xiaoqiu attacked at the same time. They controlled his body with huge inertia. The 3 of them stepped on the ground with all their strength. But even so, they slid backwards a full meter. The 3 of them showed horror on their faces. They looked ahead in disbelief. There was a purple humanoid monster with a height of 2.3 meters. Lei looked at his shield with a look of horror on his face. The shield made of thunder alloy had been dented in part, and a huge fist mark was engraved on it. He turned pale because of how heavy the punch was just now. At this moment, he suddenly realized that his left arm was in great pain and the bones inside had been broken. He said hurriedly, "No, my left hand is broken and I can't bear the second blow." Roar, roar, roar. Hiss, ha. Strange sounds came from the entrance of the hall one after another. Everyone looked there involuntarily. There were green eyes everywhere, and an evil breath rushed over. Under the light of the searchlights in their hands, they took a breath of cold air. There were pale faces and even rotten human bodies, which appeared there shoulder to shoulder. They were wearing snow-white but tattered shrouds and poured into the hall. Perhaps stimulated by the light, they seemed to have discovered a new world and rushed towards them with a roar. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 43. Li Kaiyu's voice sounded sharply, "It's not okay yet." Click. With a soft sound, Lin Yi looked happy. All right. Ka. Door number 5 was opened instantly, revealing the space behind the door. A room made of reinforced concrete, about 20 square meters, with a surgical experimental bed in the center. The floor was gray marble, already covered with a layer of dust. A strong gust of wind rushed towards Lin Yi from behind, obviously trying to rush into the room. However, Lin Yi seemed to have been prepared for it. He turned around and punched out. The foreign spiritual sutra operates, and the powerful Vajra fist blasts out. The color of lapis lazuli flashed, and Dowda's fist struck the figure rushing from behind. The visitor saw Lin Yi punch and strike down with a hand knife. A black light suddenly appeared, and his eyes were full of indifference and disdain. Be confident in your one shot. Boom. With a muffled sound, two huge forces exploded between them. Lin Yi's expression changed, huge power poured into his body, and his body suddenly retreated into the laboratory. And the man in black robe could not help but tremble. The moment he stopped, a sword light flashed. This sword is dazzling with flowers, and the fragrance of flowers is astonishing. In an instant, brilliant colorful rays of light gathered around the sword body, as if a sea of flowers appeared in the world. In the sea of countless flowers, a looming sword energy stabbed the black-robed man between his eyebrows. Amidst the fragrance of flowers, the man in black robe's eyes seemed a little confused, as if he was confused by this colorful sea of flowers. But the crisis of death came, and two black crosses instantly appeared in his eyes. The cross erupted and blasted towards the sword light that reached his eyebrows. Ka. The air seemed to twist, and a shock exploded between the two. Sakuramiya Shirley's face condensed, her feet moved, and she turned around and retreated like a fairy, leaving behind an illusory figure. Boom. There was a muffled sound, and the power of the two people exploded in mid-air. So brave. Butler Xiaoqiu had already stood between Shirley Yinjiang and the man in black robe. Li Kaiyu also stood in front of Yinjiang Shirley with his sword. Only Lei looked pale, holding up his shield and looking into the hall. The black corpses there were rushing towards them. Lin Yi's cold voice sounded in the laboratory, "Come in quickly, those things are coming. If you can't stop me, come in first and we'll talk about the rest later." Everyone's expressions changed when they heard this, and then they remembered that a group of corpses were rushing towards them in the hall. Roar. Kaha. A weird roar sounded, and those weird corpses had already rushed within 2 meters of them. The man in black robe took the lead, and a sickle made of black energy in his hand drew an arc and swept towards the corpses rushing around. Swish swish. There was a sound of breaking through the air, and the area 1 meter away from the arm was covered by the sickle. Bang bang bang. The sounds of collision and cutting sounded. The corpse monsters at the front were cut open directly and fell down with inertia. At this time Sakuramiya surely also made a counter-attack. The sword light in her hand flashed and evolved into blossoming sword flowers. Pierce the heads of the corpse monsters that rushed to the front. Qinlei gritted his teeth and stood in front of several people. He held up his shield with both hands and quickly retreated. Others also hid behind shields and quickly attacked while retreating. There was no end in sight of corpse monsters pressing up. Bang bang bang. The attacking shield trembled. At this time, the purple humanoid monster had rushed up and swept away all the corpse monsters in front of it. By this time, everyone had arrived at the gate of laboratory number 5. Surely Sakuramiya entered the gate first, followed by the man in black robe. His eyes were dark and his speed was so fast that no one else could stop him. Lin Yi didn't take action either. He could also see that this man was very powerful. Once they prevent him from entering, I'm afraid the other party will attack them directly. At that time, no one could come in. It was the lesser of two evils, so he could only make way for a passage. At this time, Butler Xiaoqiu and Li Kaiyu also quickly got in, with only Qinlei walking at the end. Qinlei jumped towards his back and was about to retreat into the laboratory. But suddenly his body paused in mid-air, and a huge force pulled him, or rather pulled its shield. His face changed drastically, and he opened his mouth to shout, "Help!" Before he could shout for help, a majestic force burst out and instantly pulled him into the pile of corpses and monsters in front of him. Creak. Ka-ka-ka. Ah, help, ah. There were shrill screams and terrifying gnawing sounds. Li Kaiyu, who had just entered the laboratory, was stunned and didn't think much about it. With grief and anger on his face, he turned around, picked up his sword, and rushed out to rescue. But Lin Yi said it was too late and soon, he grabbed the number 5 gate. Click. The door closed directly, and Li Kaiyu bumped into it. "What are you doing?" an angry roar roared out of Li Kaiyu's mouth. "Open it for me," a sword struck Lin Yi. The shining sword light was like divine light, and she felt the screams and despair of her companions outside. Without any hesitation, he directly attacked Lin Yi. When there was a sound of metal collision, and a sword light full of floral fragrance hit Li Kaiyu's Bishuang sword. "You can't save Qinlei." It was Sakuramiya surely who entered the number 5 laboratory first. She stopped Li Kaiyu. Lin Yi raised his hand and grasped the compass door lock of the number 5 laboratory and turned it hard. Click, click, click. The door was locked. Outside, Qinlei's eyes were full of fear and despair. Arms grabbed him one by one, and countless terrifying faces drowned him. The pain in his body made him quickly lose control of himself. His throat had been bitten off, and he couldn't make a sound. His eyes gradually dimmed, and a stream of resentment emerged from his eyes. "Why don't you save me? I don't want to die." Despair and resentment enveloped him, and a stream of black air spread out from all around and poured into the body he was eating. An illusory figure floated out of his body. Qinlei, who was full of resentment, turned into an illusory shadow. He had become a fierce resentful spirit, with only madness in his eyes, and seemed to be ready to choose someone to devour at any time. Then he sensed a familiar breath. At this time, Qinlei had no memory, only the brutal resentment instinct. In mid-air, he had already pounced towards the door of the number 5 laboratory. The body of nothingness passed through the steel door of the laboratory. His fierce ghost shocked everyone as soon as he appeared. Lin Yi was the first to bear the brunt, and the illusory black claws grabbed his chest. Instinctively, the hairs rose, and he bent backwards to avoid it. At the same time, he kicked out, and the sapphire gold light spread, and hit Qinlei's ghost's abdomen heavily. Puff. A strange muffled sound exploded. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 44. Qin Lei, who had just turned into a vengeful spirit and was full of momentum, had his chest and abdomen exploded directly and split into two pieces, and countless black grievances floated out of his broken vengeful spirit body. Li Qiuyu burst into tears, watching her companion become like this. She couldn't believe it, but more of it was sadness. No, Qin Lei. How could you be like this? She couldn't hold the Bishuang sword in her hand, and it fell to the ground with a clang. She looked pale and walked towards the half of Qin Lei's vengeful spirit that was floating in the air and struggling constantly. She stretched out her hands, as if she wanted to grab him. But at this time, Sakura Miyaswili had already pressed her shoulders, her face gloomy. Two of the mercenary team she found died so easily. Looking at Li Qiuyu's appearance, she felt very uncomfortable. He's dead, let Mr. Lin send him away. Sakura Miyaswili signaled Lin Yi with her eyes, and Lin Yi looked indifferent and raised his hand and waved. A cyan gold light wrapped around the fist, and the struggling ghost was crushed with one blow. As the ghost collapsed, Li Qiuyu's face froze and her body softened, and she sat down on the ground. Huff! She panted, tears streaming down the ground. The companion she had been with for several years died in front of her. And he turned into a fierce ghost, and was eventually destroyed. She was very upset now. Sakura Miyaswili, who was also a woman, squatted down and patted her back gently. There was silence in the room, but the next moment, the door banged. Rumble! Rumble! A terrible crash sounded. The door shook violently, but fortunately it opened outwards. So the impact from outside would be transmitted to the wall along the perimeter of the door. The huge crash brought them back to their senses. They were still in danger. Lin Yi whispered, "We are temporarily trapped here." Then, "This mysterious gentleman, can you tell me your origin and identity? Don't say you entered here by chance, we are not stupid. This sewer is connected in all directions, we have gone through a lot of exploration to get here. You entered where we are at the same time, I'm afraid you came for us." Lin Yi's words were very plain, and the mysterious man was shrouded in a black robe, and his true face could not be seen. He slowly raised his head and looked at Lin Yi. In the searchlights above the heads of several people, a face outline was revealed. A handsome man, a pair of dark eyes, filled with a breath of death. "You are very smart, but smart people usually don't live long." At this time, Xiaoqiu, the housekeeper, and Sakura Miyaswili stood on the left and right of Lin Yi, presenting a pincer attack, staring at the mysterious man. "You are the killer sent by my uncle." The mysterious man looked at Sakura Miyaswili, with a hint of surprise in his eyes. "You are a wise man." Sakura Miyaswili's face was cold. "Humph, everyone knows what he is thinking. He dared to secretly carry out the test proposed by Grandpa this time. Do you really think I don't know his little tricks? You are probably someone on the killer ranking list, and the test proposed by Grandpa this time was also proposed suddenly. We didn't have much time to prepare. At present, there are only two people who can get here within a day near Honglian City and have the ability to harm me. One is the 38th place on the killer ranking list, the god of death Li Huan. The other is the 41st place on the killer ranking list, the death gun Yang Lun. Looking at the means you just used, it should be the Taoist method of the death series. I'm afraid it's the legendary Death Sutra. Your identity should be the god of death Li Huan." Everyone was surprised to hear Sakura Miyaswili talking slowly. Especially Lin Yi. He originally felt that Sakura Miyaswili was just a young lady with some ability. But now it seems that she is so meticulous and can deduce the identity of the other party so accurately. Obviously, she has speculated on the possible dangers in advance and has a lot of information. The mysterious man was also slightly surprised when he heard Sakura Miyaswili's reasoning. It seems that I really underestimated you. You can actually guess my identity. Yes, I am the god of death Li Huan. This time I am here to kill you. Now, are you scared? The black robe covering his head slowly slid off, revealing a handsome face. However, the left face was covered with countless strange patterns, and a pair of black eyes were bottomless. A faint black mist surrounded him, as if it was some kind of energy that permeated the void. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with a faint green light. He immediately captured the flow of power in the other party's body. But he only looked at it for a second and closed the true destiny. The breath in the other party's body was 30% stronger than Sakuramiya surely. There were constantly dark energy spots around him that were attracted by the power in his body and surrounded him. After a rough look, he realized the danger of the other party. The opponent's attack was not limited to the essence he controlled, but also the energy attracted from the outside world. He frowned. This was something he couldn't do. The other party's cultivation method had already entered another level. He calculated that the energy in his body was only about 4 cities of the other party. He would not have any advantage in a fight. However, he had 2 mysterious treasures that could make up for his lack of combat power to a certain extent. Sakuramiya Swilly looked at the other party and smiled coldly. You are only at the liquid state, and you are only 1 level stronger than me. There are 4 of us here, so it is not a problem to keep you. Death God Li Huan glanced at the other 4 people present, and his mouth was cold. Really? Maybe you can give it a try. The 2 were on the verge of a fight. The atmosphere gradually became solemn, and the roar of the gate was endless. Li Qiuyu looked depressed, as if he had not recovered from Qin Lei's death. At this time, Butler Xiaoqiu spoke in a low voice. Miss, we are in danger now, before the danger is resolved. We'd better not have a conflict, otherwise if this gate is breached, it will be a huge disaster for us. There are corpses surrounding us outside, we can't be careless. The most urgent thing is to find a way to escape from here. Butler Xiaoqiu's words slightly relaxed the tense atmosphere. However, Lin Yi's eyes were cold, and he only heard him say, Butler Xiaoqiu is right, we are in a bad situation now. This is the former Federation Superman laboratory. There are countless experimental subjects, and there may be mutant corpses with special abilities among them. In this era, after the changes in the world, these corpses have obviously been affected and turned into terrifying monsters. We must find a way to get out first, otherwise we will be trapped here and there is only one way to go. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 45. Hearing this, surely Sakuramiya suddenly felt something in her heart. The purple corpse monster just now is obviously much stronger than the other corpse monsters. I'm afraid it's a mutated corpse that has mastered powerful abilities. Lin Yi glanced at the god of death, Li Huan. This killer, you seem to have fought against him before. Why don't you tell me what characteristics it has? We need to know its specific capabilities in order to address it. This is a dead end. Staying here is just waiting to die. We need to fight back. Lin Yi saw it clearly and immediately began to think of countermeasures. Death God Li Huan glanced at Lin Yi. That purple corpse monster has strong recovery ability and is very powerful. In terms of pure strength, even my realm can't compare with it, but it doesn't change enough. If you want to kill it, you need me and the eldest lady of the Sakuramiya family to take action together. Without any interference, it is 30% possible. Its regeneration makes it nearly impossible to kill in one hit. Coupled with the hundreds of corpse monsters outside, the power of each monster is comparable to that of a top-level mortal warrior. It's very difficult to kill them one by one. Rumble. While Death God Li Huan was speaking, a huge crash sounded again. Everyone's hearts beat with this huge roar. Li Qiuyu was shaken awake by the huge vibration. There was a trace of fear in her eyes. The death of her two comrades in this strange place had almost broken her will. Everyone followed her gaze towards the door behind her, and there were some bulges on the door. If you look closely, it seems to be the marks of a fist. Everyone was shocked. This door was a special civil air defense door that could withstand earthquakes. It is more than 10 centimeters thick and made of pure steel plates. But it is very scary that such a hard door can be dented. Several people's scalps were numb instinctively. Even the god of death, Li Huan, the person with the strongest cultivation in the room, his pupils shrank. Lin Yi said at this time, continuing like this is not an option. It's not an accident that we entered the fifth laboratory. It's the result of some kind of force. Upon hearing this, everyone was stunned, and then a chill rushed straight to the top door. Death God Li Huan's pupils shrank. What did you say? What's going on? The cold voice was a little urgent. Surely Yinzhong, Butler Xiaoqiu, and Li Kaiyu all looked at Lin Yi nervously. They felt very uncomfortable when something even weirder happened again in an already weird place. Instinctively, I felt that I and others seemed to be involved in some kind of terrible conspiracy. Lin Yi's words gave everyone chills. Just listen to his calm voice. I have some special abilities and can see any traces related to power. There's a strong trace of resentment hanging over all the experimental doors we can't open. Only when we opened the door to experiment number 5, these traces of resentment did not appear. We have been targeted by some powerful evil spirit. There is absolutely no reason why the source of this resentful spirit wants us to enter this room. There are corpse monsters outside now, and our way out may be inside this laboratory. The evil spirit deliberately forced us here. It must have some purpose. Everyone felt horrified as they listened. They were being stared at by something inexplicable, but they didn't realize it at all. If Lin Yi hadn't said it, they wouldn't have known anything at all. Maybe you will fall into the trap of weird and sad thoughts step by step. Lin Yi looked around. I'm afraid we have to search this laboratory carefully. There must be a reason why that weird remnant caused us to enter here. At this time, Lin Yi's eyes were flashing with the power of the true life item. In a faint blue light, the entire laboratory number 5 was shrouded in dark resentment. This resentment was so thick that it seemed to be turning into ink. However, the source of this resentment is not clear. Lin Yi has two perspectives at the same time. One is the perspective of resentment, and the other is the perspective of reality. At this time, he had the scene of the entire laboratory in his mind, and also had a scene full of resentment, a strange state. Let's get started. As he finished speaking, he began to search laboratory number 5 carefully. This laboratory is not big, only 20 or 30 square meters. The entire laboratory is very empty. The 4 walls are made of pure reinforced concrete, not even whitewashed. The ground was covered with a thin layer of dust, concealing its original appearance. In the center is a surgical experimental bed. There are many belts and chains on the experimental bed, which seem to be used to lock the experimenter on the experimental bed. Following Lin Yi's words, everyone else started searching. Even the god of death, Li Huan, did not object and began to search silently. Soon the walls and floor of the laboratory were searched. The 5 people looked down at the experimental bed in the middle. They came to the experimental bed, and after some knocking, Lin Yi said in a deep voice, "This bed doesn't seem to be anything special." The god of death, Li Huan, had a sneer on his lips. "We still have one place we haven't searched yet." Everyone's eyes turned to him. Li Huan stared directly below the experimental bed. There is a circular support, a circular steel support with a diameter of 1 meter. Everyone's eyes lit up, and Sakuramiya surely said, "Let's lift it together." Butler Xiaoqiu said directly, "I'll do it." He held the experimental bed with both hands, and his whole body was full of energy, and the experimental bed was lifted up. This experimental bed weighs at least 300 or 400 kilograms. It is made of pure steel and is very strong. It is obviously to trap the experimenters on it, those humans who may have special abilities. Butler Xiaoqiu can lift 300 or 400 kilograms of things with his hands at will, and his arm strength is also amazing. Move the experimental bed aside, and everyone looks at the ground. A square black door appeared in the place where the circular support was originally covered. This black door is very strange, only 80 centimeters in length and width. The door is pitch black, and it is impossible to tell what it is made of. At this time, a ray of green light flashed in Lin Yi's eyes. He frowned deeply. Sakura Miyaswili on the side looked at him and whispered, "Is there a problem?" Lin Yi took a deep breath. "There is a strange smell on the door." Sakura Miyaswili frowned when she heard it. She closed her eyes slightly, and opened them again the next moment. A faint golden light flashed in her eyes. When she saw the black door, she was shocked. This is the entrance to the strange illusion, and the black power is the strange power. The death god Li Huan on the side was interested when he heard this. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 46. Black light suddenly appeared in his eyes, turning into two mysterious crosses. He looked toward the door on the ground. At one glance, a hint of joy arose in my heart. This is really interesting. I didn't expect that a mission actually caused me to encounter a weird fantasy. Li Kaiyu and Lin Yi on the side both looked puzzled. What is that weird illusion? Lin Yi was a little strange and asked with questions on his face. Surely Sakuragong glanced at Lin Yi and said, "Weird illusion, that is a mysterious world formed by strange power. It's a wonderful world where there are no fixed rules and anything can happen. This kind of world is very dangerous, but once you gain something, it will be huge." Surely Sakuramiya explained calmly, "A long time ago, a strange phenomenon appeared in the world. These weirdnesses are very terrifying, and their characteristics are that they cannot be eliminated. No matter how many times you kill them, they will reform after a while. The strange characteristic is that it will kill anyone who breaks into the weirdness and drain their life. Then the weirdness will continue to expand in the process. The strange phenomena they cause will become more and more numerous until they swallow everything. In the past, humans were almost helpless against this mysterious phenomenon. We can only list those weird places as restricted areas, and no one else is allowed to enter. It wasn't until some people mastered the power of the weird that humans mastered the method of eliminating the weird. And now with the revival of the spiritual tide, the mysterious power of cultivation has revived. Human beings have a brand new method that can cause devastating damage to strange phenomena." Listening to Sakuragong Shirley's popular science, Lin Yike suddenly realized that there were such strange things in this world. He had never heard of such a thing. But suddenly he thought of the two strange ghosts he had hunted. Those two strange resentful spirits provided him with some strange powers, which could be absorbed by the Sutra of Strange Spirits. Thinking of this, a thought suddenly came to my mind: what will be the consequences once these strange phenomena are eliminated? He looked at Shirley Sakuramiya and asked without leaving any trace. Sakuramiya surely seemed to know what he wanted to ask, and at the same time she figured out something. He glanced at Lin Yi. Once these weird phenomena are eliminated, some weird items will often be left behind. These weird items retain the power of weird phenomena and can be used by humans. Some of them have even found ways to incorporate the power of uncanny objects into themselves. They have acquired terrifying abilities beyond ordinary people. This kind of person is called the possessor of strange power. They were the main force in fighting strange phenomena in the past. But I really didn't expect to encounter strange phenomena here. And it is also the most dangerous weird illusion among weird phenomena. Now we have to make a choice, Sakuramiya surely said with a solemn expression. Do you still need to choose? Now that we have met, the only thing left is to try. A cold smile appeared on the face of death god Li Huan, revealing his madness. There was a look of fear on Li Qiuyu's face. What Yinjiang surely said was something she had never heard of before. The unknown is the terror. Butler Xiaoqiu seemed to know something, and his face was solemn. Surely Sakura Gong glanced at the god of death Li Huan and sneered, "You are so confident, you can go in." Upon hearing this, death god Li Huan glanced at a few people and turned into a cold smile. "Then just get out of the way." As he spoke, he walked to the front of the strange black door, slowly squatted down, stretched out his hand and pulled towards the door's handle. This strange black door is a single door with a recessed handle and a faint black smoke emitting from the surface. Kaka. The god of death Li Huan touched the black door and pulled it gently, and the door opened upwards. A passage appeared in everyone's eyes. The ground of this passage is 3 meters high from the black door, and countless black and red mist floats inside. A strange stench hit their nostrils, and everyone instinctively felt nauseated. This is a sweet, fishy smell. Chills rose from the bottom of their hearts, and everyone instinctively felt a huge danger. The god of death, Li Huan, didn't notice anything and jumped down from the black portal. Bang! Landing gently in the passage below, he looked around, and what appeared in his eyes was a straight passage. There was a hint of greed in his eyes, and he disappeared into the black and red smoke of the passage in a few steps. At the entrance of the strange illusion, Lin Yi and Sakura Gong surely did not move. It doesn't matter if Li Huan, the god of death, goes in, the weird illusion is not that easy to enter. Maybe it's even more dangerous than here. Sakura Mia Shirley's face was very serious, with no smile at all, which showed how deeply she was afraid of weird illusions. If you don't step onto the summit, or you have weird powers, you will die if you go in, Sakura Mia Shirley said solemnly. Rumble. The sound of the huge iron door crashing sounded again, this time louder than the past few times. The sound startled everyone who was attracted by the strange illusion. Several people turned their heads and took a look. They all took a deep breath. Li Qiuyu's face turned even pale. How is that possible? That's a special door 10 centimeters thick. I saw a huge dent in the iron door, and even a sharp hole could be seen. The hole was about the size of a little finger. Everyone looked at the hole, and the air in the laboratory froze. A dark pupil appeared opposite the hole, looking at everyone coldly. Everyone was shocked and rushed to their heads. Then, terrifying roars sounded one after another. More crazy attacks sounded outside the gate, and the dent in the special door was rapidly expanding with crazy collision sounds. It seemed that the previous attack broke a critical point of the special door, making its resistance lower and lower. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with green light, and he had already seen it. The internal structure of this special door was already full of countless twisted cracks. Its destruction was only a matter of time, and the corpse monsters outside were shrouded in resentment and were trying to rush in frantically. Lin Yi also felt a sense of crisis in his heart. He asked himself if it was impossible to break this 10-centimeter thick special door with his flesh and blood. The degree of danger of the corpse monsters outside can be seen. These things can only be defeated with wisdom, not head-on, Lin Yi concluded. It's easy for you to say, but what's the use of just talking without practice? Li Qiuyu showed a trace of resentment towards Lin Yi. It seemed that she blamed Lin Yi for all the deaths of her brothers. Lin Yi looked at her resentful face and said lightly, "Wait a moment. The House of Everything I Created." Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 47. When they open a hole that can accommodate part of the body, attack them. With the sharp weapon in your hand and Miss Sakura Mia Shirley's sword, it won't be difficult to cut open these corpse monsters. We wait for work at leisure, and use the narrow entrance as a gateway, which is enough to annihilate them one by one here. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard Lin Yi's plan. This is very feasible, Butler Xiaochu's eyes lit up. Then let's divide the work. Let's divide it into 3 parts, Lin Yi said calmly. The person responsible for the attack must have the ability to cause instant death. Only you two, Li Qiuyu and Miss Sakura Gong Shirley, are here. I am responsible for controlling the number of corpse monsters entering through the entrance of the gate. Steward Xiaochu, you are responsible for supporting us at all times and monitoring possible abnormal dangers. At the same time, my plan B is if this special door is destroyed quickly. As a result of a large number of corpse monsters rushing in, we must immediately enter the weird illusion to escape. Surely Sakura Kiyo frowned upon hearing this. You mean, disperse them and kill them there? No, we will lead them into the fantasy realm, and then we will quickly return the same way. I have no idea we can survive in this weird illusion for much longer. Lin Yi's expression was calm, without the slightest hint of arrogance. When Shirley Sakuragong heard Lin Yi's explanation, she nodded and did not object. She and Li Qiuyu possess sharp weapons and are the best candidates to kill corpse monsters quickly. Although Li Qiuyu was a little broken just now, at this critical moment, she quickly cheered up. Her heart was full of hatred, and at this moment, she needed to vent it. These corpse monsters will be the best targets. One on the left and one on the right. Li Qiuyu and Sakura Gong Shirley stood about 1.5 meters away from the special door. Lin Yi stood on the left side of the gate, only a few dozen centimeters away from the gate. This was an angle that was not easy to see. Once any corpse monster rushes in, Lin Yi can immediately take action and launch a sneak attack. As time passed, the attacks from the outside became more and more fierce. Like a violent heavy metal song. Everyone in laboratory number 5 looked solemn, and the atmosphere became increasingly tense. Li Qiuyu's hand holding the Bishuang sword was sweating slightly, and he was breathing heavily. Bang! There was a crisp sound, and a pale arm mixed with black energy stretched into the laboratory. The first gap appeared in the door. This arm exudes a strong smell of formalin. The 5 fingers were sharp, dry, and covered with wrinkles. It was obviously no longer a normal palm. It waved its arms frantically at the gap, as if trying to grab something. At this time, Lin Yi's voice sounded, Li Qiuyu, take a strike with your sword and see their physique. Upon hearing the order from Lin Yi, a trace of reluctance flashed across Li Qiuyu's face. But now is not the time for her to be willful, even if she has resentment towards Lin Yi. Taking a deep breath, she slowly calmed down, her energy flowing in her body, and her eyes narrowed slightly. Then a ray of light erupted from his eyes, and he moved instantly. The Bishuang sword in his hand bloomed with an inch of cyan sword light, and in the next moment it had passed through the arm stretched out by the gate. Poof! When black blood burst out, and a sword mark appeared on the arm, with bones visible deep inside. But several people's hearts sank. It was the sound of metal colliding. The skeletons of these corpse monsters are comparable to metal. Li Qiuyu's expression also changed slightly at this time, and she could feel the feeling of her chopping on that arm. The sudden feeling of hitting metal made her heart sink. The next moment, she drew her sword again. Just now she used 3 points of strength, this time she will use 5 points of strength. A ray of sword light surged again, and the green light was like a stream of light, passing through the arm that was still waving endlessly. When this time, there was still a crisp sound of metal, but the arm fell from the waving state. Black blood sprayed out, dyeing the ground black, and the smell of blood mixed with formalin filled the laboratory. Li Qiuyu said solemnly, I have to use 5 points of my strength to cut them open. With my strength at the summit level, I can only perform at most 30 or 40 attacks like that before I am exhausted. Hearing this, Lin Yi frowned slightly, 30 or 40 attacks like this. And you can't make any mistakes. Every sword must hit the key point to maximize the results. You can kill up to 30 corpse monsters at most, which is your limit. And you, Miss Sakura Mia Shirley. Sakura Gong Shirley glanced at Li Qiuyu, although I have broken through the mortal realm. But the total amount of pure energy is half more than the summit level. But my mastery of power will be more refined, and I can kill about 50 heads. After a little calculation, everyone knew that it was impossible to completely kill these mutated corpse monsters. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes and immediately had an idea: let's find a way to kill a group of people first. Then Butler Xiaoqiu and I took action to stop them outside the gate. You do your best to restore your combat power and keep taking turns to wear them to death. Several people nodded after hearing this. This is the best way. Sakura Mia Shirley took out a small porcelain bottle in her hand. These are Beiwa pills, which can quickly restore our energy, but there are only 4 pills. Li Qiuyu, you and I will take turns taking them to recover later. Lin Yi and the other 3 looked at the small porcelain bottle, and their eyes lit up. As long as they have enough energy, they can always kill the monsters outside. At this time, Butler Xiaoqiu said in a deep voice, Miss, our top priority is now. Determine if these monsters have mortal wounds. If so, we can save more power. Lin Yi thought for a moment after hearing this. I'll determine their weaknesses. As he spoke, a yellow talisman appeared in his hand. That was the talisman of the Suppressing Soul Sutra that he secretly learned from the Phantom Spirit Master. Although he hasn't tried its effects yet. Looking at the gap, the corpse monster with the broken arm seemed to be pushed to the side, and the second arm stretched out. The terrifying crashing sound outside was still there, without stopping at all. More and more cracks are appearing in the door. Lin Yi raised his hand and injected essence into the yellow talisman paper, and the talisman paper quickly lit up with a yellow light. He raised his hand and flashed it, and the talisman was accurately attached to the waving arm. Yellow threads quickly spread along the arm, quickly covering the corpse monster. Sizzling. Strings of black smoke emerged from the corpse monster, which was strong resentment. Seeing this hand, Sakura Mia Shirley's eyes lit up. Hey, this is your special ghost-expelling talisman. It is said that in the ancient cultivation method, there is a special school to get rid of resentful spirits. Under the power of the talisman, the arm struggled wildly, and a strange roar kept sounding. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 48. Then the arm quickly withdrew from the gap. My talismans are also effective against these corpse monsters. The first corpse that comes in later, I will attack its head to determine whether it is vital. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow diamondsuit. If it's confirmed, then attack the head with all your strength, and I'll use runes to suppress it. Everyone had no objections and looked at the entrance nervously. Time passed by minute by minute. The gap in the special door became wider and wider as one arm after another squeezed it. These arms were covered in blood stains, cut open by sharp gaps in the special doors. The wound had even removed most of the flesh on the arm, revealing black bones mixed with white and black. But the corpse monsters felt no pain and just attacked the special door crazily. They seemed to only want the flesh and blood of everyone in the laboratory. Hoo-hoo-goo-goo. Haka. Various sounds, the roar of corpses, the crash of special doors. Countless voices made the people present feel increasingly nervous. None of them noticed, in Laboratory 5. Behind everyone, a 10-year-old boy holding a tattered doll was looking at them. His figure is illusory, like a wisp of smoke, looming at any time. At this time, the gap in the special door finally appeared large enough for a person to crawl through. A corpse had already squeezed away its companions and crawled out using both hands. Its abdomen was cut with several scars by sharp gaps as it crawled, and black blood was left on the ground. The pungent smell became stronger and stronger, and several people couldn't help but feel cold. This kind of corpse monster was really terrifying. When the monster climbed out of half of its body, Lin Yi took action. A talisman flew out of his hand, and with the blessing of essence, it turned into a yellow phantom and hit the corpse's vest. The next moment, countless yellow threads spread all over the body, causing it to twitch violently. Bound with yellow silk thread, its movements were greatly restricted. The whole body is making a sizzling sound under the contraction of the yellow light. Black scorch marks appeared on its body. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes, gathered green and gold light in his right fist, and punched the corpse in the back of the head. Bang! There was a muffled sound, huge power exploded, and the back of the corpse monster's head was sunken directly. A black substance erupted from the eyes, mouth, and nose. It was black blood and corrupted brains. At the same time, he stepped on the sunken head. Puff! With a complete muffled sound, the head exploded. A piece of black covered the ground, and the body bound by the talisman twitched violently several times and became motionless. The vitals of these corpses are the same as those of humans. Destroy their brains and they'll die. After killing a corpse, Lin Yi stepped aside and glanced at the other three people. The next step is to fight hard. Everyone's hearts sank, and the body that was no longer moving on the ground was dragged out with a swish. A teeth-searing clicking sound was heard. That was the sound of flesh and bones being eaten. The corpse was being eaten by corpses outside. And more arms stretched out from the hole at this time, struggling crazily, trying to get in. Huge roars continued to sound, and there were corpses outside attacking the laboratory door. At the end of laboratory number 5, no one noticed the strange shadow of the child. Its figure was too indifferent, almost blending into the darkness. Butler Xiaoqiu, who was standing behind Shirley Sakuronomiya, saw the scene outside through the hole in the door. Several of them are top-level masters and have certain dark vision. His face paled slightly, and the purple corpse monster outside kept attacking the experiment door. That monster is the most dangerous. Several people were shocked. Just now, the purple corpse monster knocked Qin Lei away with just one blow. They asked themselves that no one was their opponent. Shirley Sakuromiya shook her head. The monster's power is probably comparable to the extraordinary level of Hung Lien Kung Fu. In ancient times, he was a top master who could take the heads of millions of soldiers. This kind of existence can only be trapped. It is very difficult to kill it. We'll just have to introduce it into a weird illusion later. Ka-ka-ka. Accompanied by the sound of metal twisting, the opening of the special door was once again enlarged. 2 corpse monsters have crawled in frantically. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes, and 2 talismans flew out, with yellow light, and stuck behind them. The corpse was hit by the talisman and was quickly bound by the light of the talisman's threads, greatly limiting its ability to move. Take action. Shirley Sakuromiya didn't care to speak anymore and took the lead in taking action. Li Kaiyu on the side also immediately followed. The 2 sword lights, gleaming with vitality, were like lightning exploding. Swish! The sword light swept across, and the 2 corpse monsters were directly pierced through the back of the head. The huge force exploded directly in their heads along the tip of the sword. Puff puff. There were 2 muffled sounds, and the corpse monster's body twitched, then stopped moving. They paused and were immediately dragged back by the corpse monsters outside the gate. Then new corpse monsters continued to pour in. The sword light continued to explode, and Lin Yi also cooperated by continuously shooting talisman paper to control the movement of the corpses. 1 corpse, 2 corpses, and more than 30 corpses in a blink of an eye. There was almost no time to rest. The laboratory was already full of formalin and an unpleasant fishy smell. The black blood was sticky and filled the entire room. The faces of several people were very ugly at this time, because their consumption was much higher than expected. Hoo-hoo. Among them, Li Kaiyu's breathing was the heaviest, and her hands were numb at this time. Her whole body was wet with sweat, and her eyes looked at the direction of the door without blinking. Suddenly, an arm wearing a tactical suit stretched out, and the tactical suit on the arm was mostly damaged. The wound was so deep that the bone could be seen, and most of the flesh had disappeared. It was a gnaw wound. When his upper body crawled into the laboratory, everyone's heart sank. This was Qin Lei, the partner who had just acted with them, and now he had become one of the corpse monsters. A yellow talisman paper fell behind the corpse, and with the yellow light spreading, it quickly bound it. Who of you will do it? Lin Yi looked at Li Qiuyu and Sakura Miyaswili. Li Qiuyu's face was pale, seeing the tragic appearance of his former partner, Qin Lei, who had turned into a corpse monster. It was struggling at the crack of the door, opening its faceless mouth, with only white teeth. The face was completely unrecognizable, and there were no eyes. It seemed that it had just been eaten. He seemed to be looking at Li Qiuyu, and the empty eye sockets made people feel numb. Li Qiuyu's heart was stuffy, as if struck by lightning, and his whole body was soft. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 49. We don't have time to waste, he said, already taking action. A punch hit Qin Lei on the back of the head. Wait! Li Qiuyu screamed. Bang! It was already too late. Lin Yi didn't give her a chance to speak. With one punch, Qin Lei's body twitched a few times and then stopped moving. There was anger in Li Qiuyu's eyes, and he drew his sword and pointed it at Lin Yi. I asked you to stop, didn't you hear it? Lin Yi glanced at her. Will you take action? Li Qiuyu's face froze when he heard this. Yes, she would never take action against her former comrades, even if they had turned into monsters. At this time, Lin Yi grabbed Qin Lei's body with one hand and pulled it into the laboratory. Put his body here. If you have the chance, take him out. Everyone was silent, and Li Qiuyu could only look at Qin Lei in silence. Boom! Bang! Click! Click! There was a sudden muffled sound at the door, and a strange sound of metal breaking. Centered on the gap in the door, a huge gap spread out from the middle of the special door. Butler Xiaoqiu secretly shouted, No, the door is broken, let's leave quickly. At this time everyone noticed that the door was cracked. A pair of big purple hands went deep and just pulled on the broken gap. Ka-ka-ka. The harsh, tooth-aching sound of metal breaking. A lavender face covered with horrific scars appeared in everyone's sight. Whoosh! A piece of yellow talisman flew out and stuck to the forehead of the purple corpse monster. Roar! A terrifying roar erupted, and the purple monster seemed to feel the pain. It loosened its hands and clawed at its face. A figure flashed to the entrance of the cave. The fist wrapped in green gold light blasted towards the face of the purple corpse monster with huge power. Bang! There was a loud muffled sound, and Lin Yi's figure stepped back. Without any hesitation, he shouted, Let's go! As soon as he finished speaking, he rushed into the entrance of the strange illusion on the ground. The others were stunned for a moment, then immediately reacted and jumped into the entrance of the strange illusion. Their past plans failed the moment the door was torn open. Roar! Roars containing anger and resentment sounded outside the laboratory. With a violent roar, the already tattered laboratory door flew up and rushed into the laboratory. The door just flew over the head of the last butler Xiaoqiu, who jumped into the strange illusion. The violent sound of the wind made Butler Xiaoqiu's expression change. As long as he is exposed to this kind of power, he will definitely die. Bang, 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 rumble. With a violent roar, the door hit the wall of the laboratory. A red-black mist enveloped the passage, and an inexplicable coldness enveloped everyone. Everyone has a cold instinct. Lin Yi recalled a strange scene in his mind at this time. The moment before I jumped into a strange illusion. He seemed to see a looming figure in laboratory number 5. What impressed him the most was the other person's eyes, which were deep and dark. Except for his eyes, he couldn't remember what the other person looked like. What is that? Could it be? Lin Yi seemed to have thought of something in his mind. The four of them rushed into a strange illusion, and what they saw was a passage. Or rather the corridor. This seems to be a hospital. On the left are wards, and on the right are glass windows. It was dark outside the glass window, and nothing could be seen, except for something vaguely floating in the darkness. Lin Yi was the first to land, his eyes were like lightning, and he quickly looked around. 3 landing sounds were heard behind him, and he was already shouting, "Follow me, don't fall behind." Swish. There was a soft sound and he had already rushed out. Pointing the toes to the ground, the flow of essence in the body has turned into a root of Shenxin Qi, gathering in the legs. The speed was 10% faster, and he was 5 meters away in a flash. The others heard Lin Yi's order as soon as they landed, and followed closely without any hesitation. 4 figures quickly ran along the corridor and rushed towards the corridor ahead. 100 meters away, a fork in the road loomed. Terrifying roars continued to sound from behind. Hoot! Kaka! Hachahua! Bang bang bang! Accompanied by the sound of landing and roaring, the corpse monsters rushed into the corridor one after another from the entrance to the strange illusion. The purple corpse monster was huge, and it took more than 10 seconds to squeeze into the strange and illusory realm. Boom! Like a giant hammer falling to the ground, it hit the ground hard, and the entire corridor seemed to shake. This corridor is very strange, filled with the smell of blood, and black-red mist floats in the corridor. The corpse monsters kept falling. The purple corpse monster's eyes were dark, it raised its head, and its nose kept sniffing around. It was smelling, but in this strange passage, it seemed to be confused by the smell of blood. Roar! Not smelling the target he wanted to find, the purple corpse monster roared. Then it turned and walked deeper into the corridor. Other corpse monsters seemed to be affected by it and followed behind it. And the direction it was heading was exactly the direction Lin Yi and the others left. Lin Yi and the others had already arrived at the intersection of the corridor. When the corpse monsters fell, they had already hid in the left fork of the corridor. This is still a corridor, but there are wards on both sides, and the air is filled with black and red fog. The lights above are also blood red, and this strange illusion is filled with a terrifying and weird atmosphere. Lin Yi did not stop when he entered the corridor on the left. Keep going, the corpse monsters behind are coming in this direction. We have to get rid of them completely before we can return the same way. Sakuramiya Shirley's eyes kept sweeping around. After entering this strange illusion, her whole aura became extremely solemn. Everyone be alert, the strange illusion is the most dangerous place. It is normal for anything to happen here that is beyond common sense. While talking, Lin Yi suddenly stopped. Sakuramiya Shirley, who was talking, bumped into his back directly, with her chest against his back. Her face turned red for no reason, and Sakuramiya Shirley showed a trace of anger, but her good self-restraint made her stand up straight and take 2 steps back. Her eyes swept over Lin Yi to see how he explained. Lin Yi's face was solemn, and he didn't care about the misunderstanding that just happened. Look behind you. Sakuramiya Shirley and the others turned their heads and looked behind them, their faces horrified. The original corridor behind them had changed. Where did the way disappear? It turned into a glass window, and it was pitch black outside the window, and nothing could be seen. What's going on? Li Qiuyu's face was pale, her lips were bloodless, and fear filled her heart. At this time, her eyes were full of bloodshot, and she looked very haggard, almost crazy. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 50. Today she had experienced too much, the death of her companions who had lived and died together. The fatigue from killing the corpse monster just now, the strange phenomenon in this unknown land. Her spirit was almost reaching the critical point. Sakura Miyaswili looked at Lee Kyuyu's face and sighed. A jade bottle appeared in her hand. She opened the jade bottle and placed it under Lee Kyuyu's nose. A mysterious fragrance diffused out and entered his body through Lee Kyuyu's nostrils. A sense of intelligence rushed straight to the top of her head. She felt as if her head had exploded, and every cell in her brain was stimulated. Her spirit suddenly tightened, and then relaxed, and a warm feeling diffused from the top of her head. Along with this warm current, Lee Kyuyu's spirit was shocked, and some of his chaotic emotions calmed down. Sakura Miyaswili looked at her and said, "This is the scent of calming flowers. You have experienced too much this time, and your mind is unstable. This thing can stabilize your fluctuating emotions." "Thank you, Miss Sakura Miya, I was a little out of control just now." Sakura Miyaswili shook her head, "This time I made a mistake in judgment and put everyone in danger. Now we have to find a way to escape, which is the most important thing." She turned to look at Lin Yi. "Mr. Lin, what can you do to get out now?" Lin Yi shook his head when he heard it. "I am good at dealing with resentful spirits, and this place obviously has nothing to do with resentful spirits. Now we can only take one step at a time." The hearts of several people sank when they heard it. At this time, Butler Xiaoqiu said in a deep voice, "Miss, let's move on first. There are two possibilities for the sudden disappearance of our way. One possibility is that we are being targeted by something in this strange illusion. One possibility is the characteristics of this strange illusion, the maze type." Sakura Miyaswili's face changed slightly when she heard it. "No matter which one, it is very dangerous." Lin Yi looked at the two of them. "At this point, can you explain to me in detail what the strange illusion is? From your looks, you should have more knowledge about the strange illusion." Sakura Miya surely was lost in thought at this time, as if thinking about something. The dark corridor was filled with black and red mist, and flashing red lights fell from the top. A bloody smell filled the corridor, and the corridor fell into a strange silence. Sakura Miya Shirley's voice was a little serious. "The strange illusion is the sublimation of the strange phenomenon, and the strangeness in it is several times stronger than the strange phenomenon. And the maze series is the most dangerous type of strange illusion. I don't know much about the maze series. The strange illusion is divided into 5 levels according to the danger level. The lowest is level 5, and the highest is level 1. It is said that the danger in the level 5 strange illusion can be survived to a certain extent as long as you reach the level of human immortal. As for level 4, you need a higher level of power to survive. The level of this maze is unknown now. If you want to get out, you can only rely on luck. Don't disperse, keep other people in your sight at all times. It is said that the strange illusion of the maze series will confuse people who enter it and separate them. Only 1 in 100 people can finally walk out of the maze series." Listening to Sakura Miya Shirley's narration, the hearts of several people became heavier. They looked at the passage ahead. It was pitch black more than 30 meters away, and the visibility of the dark red light was not high. Lin Yi's face was calm. "Everyone be careful, let's go, it's useless to stay here," he said and walked in front. There were rooms on both sides of the corridor, some open and some closed. From time to time, you can see all kinds of strange black spider silk-like web traces on the walls and doors. It looks very strange, and a faint chill fills the space. Lin Yi walked very steadily, keeping the same distance with every step. The energy in his body was flowing, and it had long been transformed into the Great Power Diamond Sutra, and a layer of faint golden light flowed under his skin. He was in a state of being able to deal with any enemy at any time. Sakura Miya Shirley and the other two walked behind Lin Yi, paying attention to the front, back, left and right at any time. Crack! Crack! A strange sound sounded, and several people were instantly startled. Lee Kyuyu's voice was low, and there was a trace of panic. "There is something there. Lin Yi and others turned around and looked in the direction Li Qiuyu was looking at, the corridor behind them. A head stuck out from an open ward door on the left. It was a human head, but its mouth had two sickle-like fangs. The eyes were bulging and glowing red, and centipede-like legs grew on the cheeks. But the next moment, everyone's hair stood on end. The head completely stretched out from the door of the corridor ward, and pairs of red eyes emerged from behind his head. Only then did everyone see clearly what it was. One head after another, the head behind bit the back of the head in front. Pairs of eyes looked at them, and a pair of black sickle-like centipede legs grew on both sides of each head. Cack, cluck. Strange cries rushed out of their throats, and they stared at Lin Yi and others. At this time, Lin Yi's hair exploded all over his body, and a huge sense of danger came from behind. Without any hesitation, he suddenly pounced forward. His body directly hit the people in front of him. At this time, Li Qiuyu and the other two were in front of him. Like rolling gourds, they all fell forward. Boom! With a muffled sound, the ground shook, and Lin Yi turned his head to look at the danger that suddenly appeared behind him. That was the second strange centipede, which came behind everyone silently. It hit the ground head-on, knocking a hole in the ground. However, after the centipede failed to attack, it did not continue to attack. Part of its body was still in the ward next to it. Whoosh! The centipede quickly retreated into the ward, and the centipede head in front of them swam towards them. Several people quickly stood up together, looking around. Lin Yi, Sakura Miyaswili, and Xiaoqiu, the housekeeper, all looked at the human-headed centipede getting closer and closer to them. Sakura Miyashirli's face was solemn. This is a strange existence in a strange fantasy. Pure physical attacks are ineffective against this kind of thing. You must use the method of releasing your essence to kill it. Lin Yi frowned when he heard this. I'll stop him first. Miss Sakura Miya, can you kill him with one blow? I can try. The soft sword in Sakura Miyashirli's hand fell, and strands of essence merged into it from her hand. Countless mysterious patterns gradually appeared on the soft sword. Lin Yi's whole body was shining with a sapphire color. When the centipede came 5 meters in front of him, his right hand moved slightly, and the blood ring on his finger was injected with essence.